Who they think gonna beat them Bengals?
Yo, hot one, hot two, hot three, hot.
You're listening to Life in the Jungle podcast with your hosts, Coach Cam and I am Pharaoh.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the pre-draft episode of Life in the Jungle. We are excited to be back to give you our Bengal takes, a little bit on the offseason, and a little bit about the draft. It's your boy, Coach Cam, and I got my boy, I am Pharaoh, in the house with me. What's going on, man?
Happy to be back. It's been a while.
It's been a little bit too long, but we had to, life hits us. I've been on the road a lot, busy with basketball, getting that going and underway. And before we get into some Bengals talk, I do want to congratulate my squad for going to Chicago, handling business, winning the championship and in the updated junior exposure rankings with over 70 plus teams across the country. We are now ranked second. So um, shout out to my boys and shout out to the team. Um, Now let's get into it. We've been gone for a while. Our last episode was that heartbreaking Super Bowl loss. But we can honestly say we were very happy to see it. We were definitely happy to see our Bengals go that far. But I am going to ask you before we really dive into the how does it feel to pick 31? Now we haven't experienced this in our lifetime, so we have to wait all night, for a pick. Uh, but isn't it kind of strange? The Bengals picking 31?
It's about as strange, honestly, as watching my Bengals run out of the tunnel in the Super Bowl. It was a different experience, one that I've been waiting for my whole life because, like I said previously, hadn't happened since I was 2 years old. So obviously, I didn't remember that one. But no, listen, sitting atop is going to be a different viewpoint for the Bengals. It's going to be a different viewpoint for fans. So just settle in because we have quite a bit of picking to go forward before we get to 31 and we get to see who the Bengals add in round one.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm excited to see who they pick because for the first time in a long time, you can honestly say that the Bengals are in position to pick the best player available, even if we understand that possibly, there is a need for a corner. There is a need for a three tech far as defensive tackle position goes. But when you're in that position where you only need a couple pieces, if something slides to you, you pick your best player available and you find a way to stack your team with as much talent as possible. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to. The fact that we can pick almost any position, and I'm very excited about that. We got Chris Taylor in the house, always watching what's going on. Chris, what's going on? My guy Henry C. We gonna get to that Reds game one day. I know you want to chop it up, so we gonna get there. Um, uh, and I guess we was just talking about this off the record. Um, Chris Taylor here. He says Linderbaum, Linderbaum, Linderbaum. Now
Well,
we
well,
will get into that.
as
We
you
will get,
mentioned though, and I'll tease at it a little bit.
go ahead.
We're coming from a different vantage point this year, where not only because we're picking at 31,
Hmm.
but your Cincinnati Bengals, my Cincinnati Bengals, were active in free agency, so we're not
Yeah.
pigeonholed come draft wise on what we have to select at 31.
Hmm. Yep.
So gives you a different viewpoint.
Yep. Absolutely. And if they went with Linderbaum, I wouldn't complain at all. That solidifies the offensive line. You talking about where we have a quarterback that almost threw for 5,000 yards, being sacked. I believe it was 52 times in the regular season, with an additional 18 times in the playoffs. So you solidify the offensive line, and you give Joe Burrow time to cook. It could get ugly for the league there. So I would never, never, never complain about picking Tyler Linderbaum. And I want to almost avoid this comment coming up because it's your best friend here, uh, Corey Brooker. Uh, he says here, Oh wait, oh wrong show. So, and I wasn't gonna talk about this, but I am. I am because it's the Bengals, and that's what we're here for. Zach Taylor came out and said he loved to pick Buckeyes. He loved to pick Buckeyes because they are ready to play as soon as they step on the field. So hey, once you're a Bengal, I love you. So
Okay, but let me just piggyback on that for a minute.
here we go.
Coach Taylor is not uttering anything that we haven't known previously, whether you're a fan of your state university or not. Go to a school like the Ohio State University, you are talking about some of the best coached available talent in the nation. That is why they lead college football history with the most draft picks, first round draft picks, excuse me, in NFL history with 85. So, I mean, it's not a coincidence. It just goes along with what he's saying. So, I do want to say that, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. Um, but like I said, as long as they perform well, me personally, I could care less where they come from. Um, Now this is an interesting take because I haven't heard this much. Um, Joey Wilder here, appreciate you tuning in. Says we need a linebacker. Now, to me, I felt like the linebacker core played well. I felt like Jermaine Pratt did well. I feel like Logan Wilson played well. I feel like Akeem Davis Gaither is really an X factor and really was playing well before he got injured.
Mhm.
I think the depth is there. Even our boy Joe Bashi came in, game and a half, looked the part. Unfortunately he got hurt. Um,
Sparky.
so when things got kind of grim in the linebacker room and injuries started to happen, there wasn't much fall off, even to Marcus Bailey. I wouldn't touch me personally. I wouldn't touch linebacker too early, but hypothetically speaking, if you get to 31 and you get maybe a N'Kobe Dean, do you just bypass that because he's a monster?
It depends on what your approach is. As you mentioned at the beginning, if we're going best player available and feel like the Bengals have that luxury, or you're looking long term where maybe you can take a chance on a guy that maybe not that you're totally overdrafting, but might be a few slots back from where you're currently picking at, then maybe. But what I'll say is we kind of got lucky, not just in the linebacker room, but a few positions across the board that we really didn't have any significant injuries besides Joseph Osai at the beginning of the season, who I do think will also be another underrated addition just from being a pass rush edge specialist at linebacker coming back. But we had Logan Wilson go down for a few games and he was able to suck it up, come back. He had a severe shoulder injury. I think we were like one or two significant injuries away from like really having to panic in the linebacker room. So if there's one there, I'm sure they'll be having a discussion about
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like I say, for me, I'm always best player available. That's why I tried to tell Brother Farrell last year when we go ahead and win with that cold brother by the name of Jamar Chase.
it.
Um,
Yeah, you mean when I was trying to convince you not to draft Panay Sewell? Is that what you?
no, the roles were reversed. The roles were reversed, my friend. I had to, yeah, and it was so funny because that was an ongoing thing before this show started, before we even got this show going. And Brother Ken, you just can't get another jag on the offensive line. But it does but we came out to fruition around like week 8. Both can be true. Coming into
Well,
the
I'm glad
season.
you admitted that. So let's
But
not,
yeah, both can be true.
shy away from the fact that yes, the Bengals went on a run and got to the Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow has the courage of a lion to stare down the barrel as often as he did. But it was still a need. It was still something that needed to happen. Upgrading the offensive line because let's face it, Joe was not going to last at the rate that he was going. We were looking at possibly a severe injury, even in the Super Bowl, where he just wound up coming out with the MCL sprain,
Mhm.
that he'll be able to rehab and work through, and probably is already, over. So yeah, it needed to happen, but nobody's gonna trade Uno. I have on the Uno jersey. Coach Cam has on the Uno jersey. I got you, but they went out and spent the money that they needed to spend where it needed to be spent in free agency so far this year.
Yep, absolutely. And Chris Taylor says Linderbaum the center, Karras the guard. I like that. That'll give us approximately four new offensive lineman starters, and that's when you talk about truly rebuilding your offensive line. So I do see your vision there, Chris, and I would not be upset with that.
I like that.
The,
I like that.
I do kind of like that. It sounds good. And I know Corey Brooker say agree on the linebacker. We know Corey Brooker don't like Logan Wilson, you know. But for me, I love Logan Wilson. He always finds the way around the ball. And in the Super Bowl, he had an out of body experience. He was all over the place, sideline to sideline, in the backfield, thumping hits.
But I
He's
felt
gonna
like
be something to.
the two main linebackers that we had, and that's what you have to realize also when we're talking about linebacker. A lot of the times, the Bengals, like many teams, are going to have at most two linebackers on the field most of the time. It seems like nickel has become like the base defense.
It
And I
is.
thought that Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt did a tremendous job throughout the year, especially down the stretch. Logan Wilson, I think, from jump coming here, has been that linebacker that excelled in coverage and was always around the ball. But we kind of had this stigma around Jermaine Pratt, like he was almost an old school linebacker, right? That he was a plug guy
Hmm.
and a run stuffer, but he showed a lot of versatility down
He
the
sure
stretch
did.
and made some key plays in coverage himself. Mainly the one that we all exhaled in Houday Nation, getting that game-winning interception to seal the deal against the Raiders in the wild card game. So I like the effort that we've gotten from both. And you mentioned some of the guys that stepped up at different times when we needed them, to a Marcus Bailey and Joe Bocci. But again, if there's a gym there and it makes sense and it's the right pick, go ahead and do it.
Yep, yep. I totally agree there. Let's see here. We got Henry C. Giving me a Bearcat question. I appreciate you, Henry C. Where do y'all see Sauce and Ritter going? Um,
Let the
for
resident Bearcat fan take that one first.
for me, I feel like Sauce Gardner is automatic top five. I think he could possibly go as high as three. Um, I think, and this is just not even Bearcat blinders. I feel like Sauce Gardner could be could be the best player in the draft after it's all
Woo!
said and done. That I think that's how good he could possibly be if he continue to work, and continue to work on his craft. Desmond Ritter is very tricky. It's a different kind of draft. If it was a different draft, I would say possibly Desmond Ritter would probably be going third, fourth round. However, with it being the quarterback class being a little bit down, and there's many teams, will reach. He's a good interviewer as far as pre-draft stuff. Um, he was very smart on the board, and a lot of teams are really starting to like his intangibles as far as leadership and things like that. So I think Desmond Ritter will fall somewhere in the first round. Um, Yeah, I think you'll fall somewhere in the first round, maybe mid to late first. I can see a team, trading in the back of the first round to get him, or you can look at a team like I hate to say it, that team from PA, reaching
Alameda
out and getting
County.
a quarterback. Yep, from could reach out to grab him, because they liked him. Mike Tomlin met him down here at
Mike
Jeff
Tomlin
Ruby's.
came here personally.
Right, at Jeff Ruby. So I'm telling you, man, Ritter got some buzz going. I know he may not be the best in eyes, but he has the intangibles that people like it for our leadership. So
All
I
right,
think they'll both go first round.
all right, Bearcat man. Let me hop in here and speak on my alma mater, the University of Cincinnati, having the opportunity to have
I
first
wouldn't
round
tell.
have first round draft picks. Oh man, yeah. But shout out to the University of Cincinnati. I think that Sauce Gardner probably is the best player in this draft. He made some headlines when he made that statement a while back earlier on in the draft process. But if you put on the tape, and you take your blinders off regardless of what school you do or don't, support, and you look at the production and you look at his entire career, you look at his workout at the combine that did nothing but solidify that. Sauce Gardner at 6'2" is one of those corners that just don't come around often. That big corner that can still run, that can open his hips, that's intelligent, that's still physical. Everybody's looking for that. Richard Sherman, Champ Bailey. Even though he wasn't the most physical, I think he gets a bad rap. But the greatest corner of all time in prime time was another 6'2" corner that could open his hips and could really play the position. And I know those are some lofty names. Charles Woodson is another one that you throw out there that I just said. But right situation and with the confidence and swagger that he has, the man's name is Sauce. So, and Coach Cam knows this. Like I may jug and tease as far as the transition that they're making and not want resources to be taken away from my beloved basketball program at UC. But I am a huge Sauce Gardner fan and have been. So I've been singing his praises for a while. Desmond Ritter, as Coach Cam once called the JT Barrett of UC football.
Yes.
I like him as a person, and I do think that he has a pathway, shall we say, and a niche, depending on where he goes, to stay in the National Football League and potentially be a starter under the right, scenario one day. I mean, I'm not talking, right away from day one, but a lot is gonna, be told by, who picks him, how the draft goes. As you mentioned, it's what is considered to be a quarterback light draft, not really, heavy, which will probably work in his favor because anytime that happens, even more so than usual, quarterbacks are gonna get overdrafted.
Mhm.
Now, as long as he lands in the right situation or someplace like you mentioned, that team in Allegheny County with a head coach like Mike Tomlin, you at least know he's going to get a fair shot. And that's all you can ask. And his skills should be able to take care of the rest. So, as far as where I see Ritter going, I still thought he was a second or third round pick. And I'm going to stand by that. But if he does, end up at the bottom of the first round, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and that's reasonable. Like I said, I think any other draft he would go like third or fourth round. Being honest with you, but with you, it's a quarterback thirsty league, and I feel like somebody will reach on him in his leadership here. Uh, we got Corey Brooker saying, "Hope you're right on Sauce. I do root for the local kids, but I need to see him cover someone with a pulse." Well,
Ah,
fir- well, here we go, Corey
okay,
Brooker.
can I
No, you go first, please,
okay.
and I'll go.
Because me and Mr. Brooker share a lot of our, personal
Mhm.
preferences as
Mhm.
far as surveying the college football game goes.
Absolutely.
But, I didn't really see Nick Saban go after Sauce Gardner either.
Didn't try.
So I understand what you're saying, but and you can only play the opponents that are on your schedule.
Did
But
not try.
but Sauce is not one to be played with. I trust me on this one. He passes the eye test on a number of occasions, and especially that one in the grand stage against what you would consider to be the elite competition of all elite, or some people do in college football. No, they didn't try Sauce.
No, he had 2 targets his way. Jameson Williams on Sauce Gardner had 1 catch for -4 yards. You can judge off that. And I'll judge off another, and it's no offense. I'm not even trying to be funny at all. Junior year, didn't Freifogel from Indiana really do damage against Ohio State secondary?
Oh, I thought you were gonna go the whole,
No, no,
Jameis.
hold on. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. He did major damage against that secondary. Well, Sauce held him to 2 catches for 14 yards.
Well, that was
So
also with your current defensive backs coach at the University of Cincinnati being uh, underqualified to hold the position of defensive coordinator at the Ohio State University. Why some of that happened, and that's not to throw him under the bus. I'm just being honest. But I thought you were going with the whole, Jameson Williams couldn't, be more than the fourth or fifth wide receiver at Ohio State because of how they recruit the wide receiver position. That he goes to the great Alabama and has a breakout year, and all of a sudden he's a first round draft pick. But no, I agree. I think that Sauce is Sauce. Like I get it. Everybody wants to say, well, he was going against AAC talent and so forth. So that means he was doing what he was supposed to do then, right? So he never gave up a touchdown against that type of opposition. And then when you did put him on the field against an Alabama, even Nick Saban had enough sense not to try him. So I think that's the ultimate sign of respect. But it's the NFL. You can't hide. So we're certainly gonna find out about him and everybody else we're talking about.
Yes. See, it says Taylor saw a comp for Ritter or Mark for compare Ritter to Marcus Mariota. Um, I mean they similar body types. But that's the remainder to be seen. Let's see here now. What we do want to touch on, we want to get more into Bengals here. Uh, Now, question for you, uh, brother Alex. At 31, I just have a hypothetical question for you, and then we can get to our mocks. Say at 31, we drafting. It's Elam on the board.
Woo!
It's Kyler Gordon on the board.
Woo!
It's Linderbaum on the board. It's Devontae Wyatt on the board, D tackle from Georgia. It's multiple options. Say Jags come calling, want to come and move up from 35 to 31. They'll give you an extra fourth. Would you trade back? Knowing that you will possibly have one of those four.
I'm not.
Or would you want your first pick of choosing whoever you want?
See, and this is why I wish some people could at times be privy to our private conversations that we have off the air sometimes. Because see, Coach Canton, he likes to play GM, so he'll get on Twitter and go on these rants with people, and he'll get to entertaining all this malarkey. I would move back and package this and that. Da, da, da. I'm not big on moving back. If anything, I encourage people to move up and go get the player that you actually are enamored with that will make a difference. And not a lot of people, do that. But no, the answer would be no. If all of them are on the board, I'm going to take one of them, which I'll keep quiet for now until we go into our mocks. But no, I would make sure that I get the player that I want because you're already taking a chance at 31, as Coach Taylor said, of essentially watching your entire wish list or draft board for the first round not be there anyway. So if somebody falls, no, I'm not trading back. I'm getting that player and I'm getting out of Dodge.
I feel you. I feel you. For me, I would trade back. Just because if I could get an extra fourth rounder, and don't get me wrong, like our fourth round picks, like third and fourth round picks, as a late been solid. We get a Logan Wilson in the third, we get a King Davis Gaither in the fourth, and don't be surprised. I still like um, even our picks this year in the fourth round, I believe. I'm not sure if he was third or fourth round. I'll do my research real quick on that. But someone like Cam Sample, when you get an extra draft, he played snaps like every game, like whether it's
What,
12 to
what
15
round was
snaps.
Geno Atkins selected in?
Fourth, fourth.
Now again,
Yeah, that's all pro
I'm not bringing
Hall of
that up
Fame
to
level.
say like that's a great likelihood of occurring again, but I'm just mentioning that yes, it can happen.
Yes, absolutely. It definitely can. But yeah, I would definitely trade back and then get an extra pick and also be knowing that I'm gonna get one of the players on my wish list still. Um I'm just because I feel like getting an extra pick. I'm not saying we're young. We're young on offense, but I feel like we do have to get a little bit younger on defense. We got some pieces that where you, especially in the DB room, um, and you just can never load up on young talent. And I do like the where we're drafting so far. So me personally, I would take the extra pick, knowing that I can still possibly get Linderbaum, Gordon, Elam. I heard Andrew Booth is in there in that range as well, possibly
However,
so.
however, especially with those defensive backs that you just named, the likelihood of getting a starter and a serious contributor day one when it comes to defensive backs, you usually need to nab that guy in the first round.
You're
Okay,
right.
the Richard Sherman, oh, we got him in the fifth round type stuff. I'm sure even that one didn't have anything to do with his actual physical ability. That stuff is few far in between. And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but usually when you start drafting defensive backs late, you're talking about guys that will contribute possibly on special teams, come in
Mhm.
the field on some dime situations where the ball is going to be passed, or late in the fourth quarter where you got five other defensive backs on the field, so hopefully they don't stand out as a sore thumb.
Mhm.
It just gets dicey with me. Like I said, if you're gonna go defensive back, which the Bengals more or less over the past decade and a half, when we have chosen corners in round one, really haven't gotten burned. I mean, we had a couple guys that did not materialize the way that maybe the team had hope, and maybe a Darquez Denard in there, but William Jackson the third produced while he was here. Uh, you know, he did. I didn't say he was a Pro Bowl caliber, player, but he was not a bust.
Nah, he
You
ain't a
know,
buzz.
um, I know people like to talk about Bengals players, which I've cautioned Coach Cam about after they leave, but for the majority of his time here, a Dre Kirkpatrick was, serviceable. Leon Hall, Jonathan Joseph. I'm going back, but we really haven't gotten burned on first round corner. So if you're asking me, one of those guys that has a first round grade is there. I'm going to tip, my hand a little bit on what I'm going to do in the mock draft later. But yeah, I would go ahead and snatch him up.
Yep. Absolutely. I get it. I totally understand. You get that player if you feel like he's going to be a starter for you, because the Bengals are drafted corner to try to find a starter. They're trying to upgrade the number two cornerback position. Like I said, Eli Apple did a very good. I commend him, because like I said, he was never brought here to play 60 plus snaps a game. But when you're a starter on a Super Bowl caliber team that made it to the Super Bowl, you do get the credit there. And I understand people want to talk about the last drive of the Super Bowl, but hey, it's a combination of course him and the DC. We got to make sure that we don't allow the best player to beat us on the last drive. So uh,
And as I mentioned on the last episode where we did the Super Bowl wrap up and season and then wrap up, that other team gets paid too.
mhm.
That was definitely brought up by McVay on purpose to put certain players in certain positions and get the matchup that he wanted down the stretch also. So like you said, that goes back on Sweet Lou and us to make the adjustment, and to not get exploited in that situation. So there's give and take on both sides, but the Rams knew what they were doing in that instance also.
Yep, absolutely. And hey, you got to tip your cap and give credit when it's due. All right. So we are going to tap in to
Woo!
our 3 round mock draft. We're not gonna go 7 rounds, because after third round, it's a roll of the dice, and whoever you pick, you're hoping you land a gem and someone that can, contribute. I'm gonna let you go first.
Oh, okay. Well,
All right, the Bengals are on the clock at
all right.
31. Who you got?
With the 31st pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals select Kyler Gordon, defensive back,
Mm,
University of Washington.
I
Now,
like that.
before Who Dey Nation, explodes, I've been very high on this kid. I watched a lot of tape on him even before Mel Kiper picked him in his initial mock draft for the Bengals. It makes sense on a lot of fronts. He is more of a zone coverage guy, but not a guy that I think will be exploited in any particular situation. He's a very physical corner. He does not mind coming up and tackling. He's also over 6 foot. So another corner that can match up against some of the bigger wide receivers on the outside, and that's what I'm looking for. I need a corner that can stand up on the outside, because obviously we have Mike Hilton has that slot corner thing on lock here in Cincinnati. One of the most underrated signings that the Bengals have had in recent years. Love me some Mike Hilton, but no, Kyler Gordon, coming from the West Coast and University of Washington, would be my pick. Now, I do want to throw a disclaimer out there. If Kyer Elam is available, speaking of that 6'2" corner from Gatorland, University of Florida, that would absolutely be my pick. So I want to throw that out there. Farrell fell in love with Kyer Elam's tape, watching him the past 2 years, and the ball skills and the natural instincts, the hands, the size, again at 6'2". And although I don't find that competition in the conference he played in to be as superior as other people do, it is a measuring stick, having played in, that conference below the Mason-Dixon line, that, he can stack up against top competition. I watched what he did against Alabama last year, where Florida actually came up, 2 points short against, Alabama. Very good game by him, both, tackling and coverage wise. So that is my contingency pick for 31. But more than likely, Kyler Gordon will be there. That would be my, pick.
Okay. All right. So with me, for the 31st pick, well, actually, we have a trade. We have a trade. I traded with the Detroit Lions. I went back one spot. I gained their third round pick, and I gave up my fifth round pick. So I got an extra third there to trade. Got rid of a fifth. So since I went back a spot there, um, for the 32nd pick in the NFL draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Kyler Gordon. I like Kyler Gordon. I like his intangibles as far as his athletic ability. He's not the tallest corner. I know Bengals kind of like length a little bit, but he he's explosive. He can get out in and out of his breaks very very well. And that's someone I feel like we could he can give us not only plays on nickel packages and things like that. I feel like he could be a starter um right away. And if you can get a starter at 31 or 32 right away, you have to take it. And I think he is more of the sure fire of the corners that was left because Elam wasn't there where I picked, and neither was Booth. So I went on ahead and went with Kyler Gordon from Washington at DB at 32 because I traded back one spot.
Yeah, they were both gone, Elam, Booth, on my mock draft simulator also. And folks, so we didn't rehearse this. We didn't share before, the show what, each one was going to do with these are our picks. This is just, Cam and Farrell separately combining their wisdom and looking at the tape that we've looked at and what would be available potentially for the Bengals there and thinking what would be the best fit. And we agreed on Mr. Kyler Gordon, cornerback from the University of Washington.
hmm All right, so we go on the second round. Pick number 63, I believe, and I'll go first on this one. With the 63rd pick in the NFL draft, the Bengals select defensive tackle from Houston, Logan Hall. I know a lot of people have him at the bottom of the first round. I don't think he's gonna go that high. Um, he's kind of a one-trick pony far as his bull rush goes, but he's extremely athletic. Can get after it, can cause havoc in the pass rush game. You got to think he'll be next to DJ Reed or Trey Hendrickson, who eats a lot of that. DJ Reader is going to eat a double team. You're gonna have to, you know, be accountable for Hendrickson. So I think he could be able to do work. Now, what I would like to see, and I know this is just getting off the draft a little bit, I would like to draft Logan Hall, but I would really like us to revisit Ogunjobi or look at the veteran Akeem Hicks. that used to play for the Bears to fill that spot because um, having that extra three tech is very important. Um, we know we got BJ Hill, and he played some great ball.
The
Uh, but
baby.
but you want some depth. You want some depth there. Be able to rotate guys, and that was a very plus for us last year. We could rotate Josh Tupu, DJ Reader, Larry Ogunjobi, BJ Hill. We was just subbing in and out and keeping fresh. So I would like that depth there. But Logan Hall for me at 63, I'm hoping we can still sign a veteran uh three tech and moving forward.
Well, I think most Bengals fans would love to have Larry Ogunjobi back.
There you go. Yes, Corey says yes on Larry O.
Yeah, so obviously a lot's going to depend on his health. Because that's why he's not a member of the Bears right now, because he failed that physical, probably still recovering from his offseason surgery. Lots also going to depend on what Ogunjobi is willing to, accept money wise and contract length wise. I'm sure he was going into this offseason not wanting another 1 year deal, but unfortunately, injury can change a lot of that. So I would be
Mhm.
happy with another veteran too. But uh, also on that first round pick, I did want to say that I gave the contingency about if Elam was there, that would be my number one, pick. But realistically, I think Kyler Gordon would be there and a good fit. Also, wouldn't mind safety from Penn State, Jaquan Brisker, if he was available. Physical safety that runs a 4.45 40,
Mm.
played against some elite competition at Penn State. You have to start looking long term also. After the season, Von Bell's contract is up. We know that Jesse Bates is probably not going to be here after he plays out the final year of this franchise tag that he's been offered, that he still actually has to sign to be brought into the fold. A very heady decision maker in the secondary would be nice. So throw that out there for Bengals fans to do your research. Look at Jaquan Brisker, because the Bengals could go off the radar and do that as well if he's there at 31. But moving on to my second round pick, with the 63rd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Perion Winfrey,
Mm.
defensive tackle, University of Oklahoma. Reason I'm picking Mr. Winfrey is, again, I'm big on, occasionally it's okay to find that diamond in the rough, but I'm gonna go back and quote old Coach Cooper from the Ohio State University. At a certain point, I don't want to discover guys. I want to know that they have what it takes to get it done, and I want plug and play guys. Knock on Winfrey in some cases has been maybe in the run game, he's not, the most physical, but I've watched a lot of tape of him out there in the Big 12. I feel like he holds his own. But as far as pass rush is concerned, because you're going to have guys, like you said, BJ Hill, that can eat the double team, especially DJ Reader, to have a guy up front that's going to cause some of the havoc that Larry Ogunjobi did, especially if we don't bring him or another veteran in, like you mentioned, would be tremendous. And if that's all he's got to do this year is just be another inside guy that is going to collapse the pocket and cause some havoc in the pass rush game, then he can do that, and he can shore up the other skills, along the way, and
Yep.
not, overcompensate in doing so. So that would be my pick for a second round pick. Perion Winfrey, defensive tackle from the University of Oklahoma.
All right. All right. Now we on to round three. I believe we are at pick 95.
Oh yeah. Well, I got to looking at some other spots on the Bengals, roster that I know
Mhm.
need to be upgraded, not just from what we lost in free agency, but maybe just
Mhm.
in general.
I know where Brother Pharaoh is going with this, and I can have my eyes closed and just listen to how he talking, how he introduce it, where he's going with this, because I done did enough shows with him. But you go ahead, Brother Pharaoh, because I know where you going.
I just want Mr. Brooker. I want, uh, brother Toto to be here. I don't know if my man Antonio Strader is here, but, but this one is for you, and it makes sense. So, with the 95th pick in the 2022 NFL draft, the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals select Jeremy Ruckert, tight end from the Ohio State University. Once upon a time ago, 4 years ago, Jeremy Ruckert was the number one tight end recruit in the entire nation coming out of high school out of New Jersey. And unfortunately for him, to a degree, Ohio State does not utilize the tight end much in the passing game, but certainly every time he was utilized or given the opportunity to make a play, he did so. I think in the 60 plus targets that he had, during his time at Ohio State, he only dropped 2 passes. You can put on a lot of tape of Jeremy Rucker to see some crazy catches against the University of Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game. Another one hand grab against, the University of Alabama in the national championship game, a couple years ago. 6'6", 250. He's got all the measurables. The guy can run. He can block most especially. He did that in the Big Ten. It's a really smart pick and makes sense on a number of fronts if he's there in the third round to go ahead and solidify that. We've spoken on, and we don't single people out on Life in the Jungle, but I think we both spoke that Mr. Drew Sample leaves a little bit to be, desired from the tight end position as far as what we personally would like to see from the tight end position. Lost C.J. Uzama in free agency. Hayden Hurst, I think, is a good addition, but he's more of a pass catching tight end. Jeremy Rucker makes sense if he's there, the third round pick to me.
Okay. Alrighty. For me, the 95th pick in the NFL draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select. Can't believe I'm saying this, man. Jeremy Ruckert, Ohio State. If
The
y'all,
justice pain on this man's face for him to say that it just made sense, and he had to agree with Brother Farrell just for one time on
and
his
it's on my mock that I'm looking at, man.
look,
I
look,
got him. I had him in the third round. It
I
was the
wish I
best
could
option.
rewind that and just see the pain in your face when you. Oh,
It was like
and I
Jeremy,
applaud you.
Ruck. I couldn't Jeremy. Jeremy Rucker, third round tight end. We need a tight end that can do both. We need a tight end that can block. Like you said, we don't like to single out Bengals players here. But Drew Sample, is a position that could be upgraded. The fact that I think what it is about Drew Sample, the fact that he was drafted in the second round. We wouldn't complain about Drew Sample if he was a fourth or fifth round pick where he was supposed to be drafted and he was a blocking tight end. We would probably applaud him. But the fact that he was a second round pick at the tight end position, that's a premium pick, and it just hasn't we haven't received the benefit of that. We need tight end, a young tight end for the future. Hayden Hurst is, a veteran. He probably has 1-2 years left. So it'll be good for uh for Rucker to learn for a year, get some playing time, and possibly look to take over the tight end position moving forward. And since I had a trade, I have one more pick at 97 in the third round. Um, and this is where you can kind of play around a bit. I feel like we covered the tight end position, the three tech, and the corner spot, and now you can kind of play around. For the 97th pick of the draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select the speedy wide receiver Calvin Alston from Memphis. Now, I would reason why I'm looking at that, I'm also thinking long term, but I'm also thinking where you can use him 4 or 5 plays a game, gadget plays, different things like that. And it can open up things for others. You also have to looking at possibly. I know he's a little smaller, but he's shifty. He's a decent route runner. You got to look at possibly replacing slot. I love Tyler Boyd. I wish he could be a Bengal forever. But you got T. Higgins contract coming up. You have Jamar Chase will get paid a lot of money. Joe Burrow will get paid a lot of money. Um, I don't know where the money is at for Tyler Boyd, and that's why I went Calvin Alston there in the third round. I just think it's a pick that you can kind of risk there. Um, high risk, excuse me, low risk, high reward type of thing, where it ain't hurt you if you're picking, but if he comes out and be a heck of a punt returner or kick returner, uh, and you can use him on reverses and gadget plays and different things like that, he could be something useful. So just thinking long term with that pick, especially with the last year on the deal for Tyler Boyd.
I like it, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals at a certain point during this draft, and I'm talking in the top 4 or 5 rounds as far as their picks, does address the wide receiver position. Because listen, we still, in my opinion, voice what would be considered the best trio of starting wide receivers in the league. In my opinion, at least I
Mhm.
wouldn't trade what we have for any other combination in the league. But as you said, maybe even just having some depth behind them, even for this year, wouldn't be a bad thing. We spoke about this both on and off the air before. Listen, I got on a Uno jersey, but I'm trying to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the only reason I don't have on a Tyler Boyd jersey is because I know long term he wouldn't be here, and I didn't want to waste my money. But Tyler Boyd is my favorite Bengals wide receiver on this current roster. Tremendous leader, guy that had been here for some of the lean years. In fact, he came the year after the Bengals' previous last playoff run in 2015, and he didn't experience some of the success that even the veterans had before they filtered out of here. So I was very happy to see that he was able to experience a run to the Super Bowl last year. But it's
Mhm.
semantics. It's business. As you mentioned, the guys that on the offensive side that are going to be up for extensions and possibly in a couple years. Do you bring Joe Mixon back, in that too, or do you start to look at the future at running back and other things that are just kind of going to make Tyler Boyd possibly the odd man out? Now you never know. He could decide that he loves being a Bengal so much that he grants the Bengals a hometown discount and wants to remain part of it. I mean, it's not likely, but you never know because he wasn't looking to hurt the Bengals in his current deal that he's on, where he's re-signed making the 4 year 40 million, 10 million a year because he wanted to remain a Bengal. But I also understand the business and understand that at the end of this, Tyler Boyd will be 30 years old or very
Mhm.
close to 30,
Yep.
possibly more than likely on his last NFL contract. Because he's had two here with the Bengals, and making it to that third contract in the NFL is everything if you can, and that's any position. So if he does want to cash out on the way out, listen, I'll salute Tyler Boyd. Right now, would love to have him on Life in the Jungle or Factual Opinions podcast. Uh, I love that guy. So you do have to look at a certain point addressing the slot wide receiver long term.
Alrighty. And before we go, we got a question here. I like this question a lot. So who do you think the dude that falls, unexpectedly? Now, because in the NFL draft, we always have a guy, oh, he for sure top 15. And you look at the end of round one, at the end of the night, he's still out there. Is there somebody that comes to mind that may drop like that?
For me, it's Tyler Linderbaum. At first he was a surefire first, center selected in the draft. Now you have people speculating about some of his measurables, his arm length. Will he, be there or not? And it depends on, some of what other teams are looking for also. But I think there is a pathway and a possibility for him to drop to 31. And if he drops to 31, now me and Coach Cam have both reviewed a lot of tape on Tyler Linderbaum also. And our initial post before the Bengals even made any free agency moves was about how we would love to have Tyler Linderbaum as our center.
Hmm.
Here, if you go back and you check out the Life in the Jungle page on Facebook, so we made a whole post, regarding that. But that would be the guy that I could see dropping, and then all of a sudden the Bengals have a decision to make at 31.
Big time, big time. For me, the person that I feel that may drop, and it's so crazy because before the season started, you'll have him as a top 5 pick. But Stingley, you know, it's a mystery about him. Everybody want to talk about his freshman year campaign where he was possibly one of the best corners in the nation, but ever since then it's been kind of average play. Injuries, hasn't worked out. Really haven't been able to see uh much of Stingley, to be quite honest with you. He has a Liz Frank injury. That's always tricky. He's continuing to rehab that. Um, I just Everybody, talk about, oh, he has a tremendous upside, he has a tremendous ceiling, this, that, and the third, but will he ever reach it? I mean, because we haven't seen him play like he did as a freshman since. And with injury, him not finishing the season, Sauce kind of took his shine. Now you're talking about you got other corners that's you know performing and working out and showing good intangibles. It's kind of a mystery with Stingley. You know what I mean? But I have a question for you. Injury and everything. Stingley at 31. Are you running, or would you run to the podium?
Probably, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say, although I understand exactly what you're saying and the scenario that could bring that about, he's not lasting at 31 because there is a segment of football and amongst scouts and GMs and so forth that does believe that myth about the SEC and the superiority of talent and so forth that I've been on record to say a number of times I don't believe in it. Certainly not to the degree that it's played up. But I know there's enough people and he's performed against enough elite competition that I just don't see anyway he drops to 31 where it's a consideration. If he does, Mm, we've had pretty good history with LSU players, here going all the way back to the great Andrew Whitworth. So, yeah, I,
LSU has treated us well.
I'd
Shout
sprint
out
to
to
the
LSU.
podium. Yeah,
They treat us well. I'm not a big SEC guy, but LSU has treated us well. You talk about Whitworth, you talk about Burrow Chase, things like that. So LSU has definitely treated us well. But hey, it's exciting times. The draft is Thursday, and it's nothing like the NFL draft to me. NBA draft cool, but it's something about the NFL draft. You always that we have a trade, and it's nothing like hearing that. But before we go, it's gonna be one team that picks some foolishness in the first round. They always normally it's the Raiders who pull the who, but John Gruden and Mike Mayock are
Mayock.
gone. And that's beyond me. Like, how you been a draft guru all these years, and your first round picks are that bad? Like, but there's always one team that's gonna either reach high for a quarterback, and I'm really hoping the Seahawks go ahead and just get Ritter at 9. Like, I'm hoping things like that happen to where other teams feel like, oh, let's draft Pickett. Oh, we gotta get Willis. Oh, we gotta get Matt Corral. I'm hoping all the quarterbacks
I mean,
get
there's a
taken.
great likelihood of that occurring because, as you said, every year, quarterbacks get overdrafted anyway. I don't care what they say as far as, oh, this isn't a quarterback friendly draft. If somebody has a concern at that position, they're going to go get that guy. That is a position that they will trade up or overdraft for
Mhm.
in a heartbeat. And there are some guys with some talent, on the periphery that I wouldn't spend a first round draft pick necessarily on. But if you go back, this is years ago. I can't forget the EJ Manuel, Christian Ponder,
Mm,
draft where
mm.
people were trading up, and EJ Manuel became a top 10 pick of the Buffalo Bills. Christian Ponder, with the Vikings, people that you more or less honestly knew probably wouldn't see the light of day long term, but it's just the nature of the beast. And there's a few guys like you said, Willis from Liberty, and uh, I'm pretty big on the Pickett kid from Pittsburgh. I think
You like
right
Pickett?
I think right scenario, I think he'll be the best quarterback to come out of there since Dan Marino.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not saying he's going to be Dan Marino, but I'm saying right scenario, it wouldn't surprise me for him to be a starter in the NFL one
All right, there we go, there we go. But we good. We happy that we back. You know, and be able to talk Bengals with you guys. We will be back next week after the draft to recap that. And hopefully, we get some steals and picks that we like, and and the right moves are being made. But there's no reason why we would um honestly second guess the coaching staff. And right now, the draft room of the Cincinnati Bengals the last 2 years has been solid. We've been, luckily, knock on wood here, healthy, and hopefully we remain so. So definitely excited about the draft. See who my Bengals pick. I got to stay up to about midnight to see who they pick. Definitely a
day.
strange thing for me. But anything you got to say to the people before we head out?
Listen, happy to be back. I want everybody to check out Life in the Jungle. Now we're on IG. The Facebook page has been up and doing great numbers since last year. Please stay tuned because we always post content, in between shows. You submit questions. Very interactive is what we're trying to have this platform be. So we greatly appreciate the Twitter followers, YouTube, wherever you're tuning in at. Keep doing so. We'll try to provide you with the best Bengals, content out, and look forward to seeing what our defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals do this year.
Yes, absolutely. And it feels good to say defending AFC champ. I wish you could say defending Super Bowl champions,
Ah,
but
well,
but
the world don't want that because I'd be a little bit more overzealous with
oh
so and if and when it does happen, ooh,
yeah, they gonna feel it. They gonna. I was ready this year to unleash, but looks like I gotta wait a little bit more time. But appreciate you all for tuning in. Appreciate you, Corey. Thank you. For the congrats there. We'll continue to work hard. We have a big tournament coming up Saturday in Indy, so we'll try to keep it going. But to everybody watch, appreciate you. Make sure you tune in on Spotify. We will be on Apple as well, so make sure you tune in. Listen, if you missed this, we appreciate you. We out.